Number 93, The Story of Ferdinand by Munro Leaf. Drawings by Robert Laws. Munro Leaf is the author. Robert Laws is the illustrator. This book is set in a different country. This is the country of Spain, and they have a culture there of having bullfights. And the people that are in the ring with the bull are called the matadors and the picadors. And we are going to learn the story of one bull who goes to the bullfights. His name is Ferdinand. The Story of Ferdinand. Once upon a time in Spain, there was a little bull, and his name was Ferdinand. All the other little bulls he lived with would run and jump and butt their heads together. But not Ferdinand. He liked to just sit quietly and smell the flowers. He had a favorite spot out in the pasture under a cork tree. It was his favorite tree, and he would sit in the shade all day and smell the flowers. "Why don't you run and play with the other little bulls and skip and butt your head?" said his mother. But Ferdinand would shake his head and say, "I like it better here where I can just sit quietly and smell the flowers." His mother saw that he was not lonesome, and because she was an understanding mother, even though she was a cow, she let him just sit there and be happy. All the years went by. Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and very strong. There's a height chart here, just like you guys have been doing, measuring how tall you are at different ages. All the other bulls who had grown up with him in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They would butt each other and stick each other with their horns. What they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight at the bullfights in Madrid. But not Ferdinand. He still liked to just sit quietly under the cork tree and smell the flowers. One day, 5 men came in very funny hats to pick the biggest, fastest, roughest bull to fight in the bullfights in Madrid. All the other bulls ran around snorting and butting, leaping and jumping, so the men would think they were very, very strong and fierce and pick them. Ferdinand knew they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care. So he went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. He didn't look where he was sitting, and instead of sitting on the nice cool grass in the shade, he sat on a bumblebee. What's going to happen? What do bumblebees do when they get disturbed? Wow! Did it hurt? Ferdinand jumped up with a snort. He ran around puffing and snorting, butting and pausing the ground if he was crazy. What did the bumblebee do to him? The bumblebee used a stinger and stung him. It wasn't very nice of Ferdinand to sit on him. The 5 men saw him, and they all shouted with joy. Here was the largest and fiercest bull of all, just the one for the bullfights in Madrid. So they took him away for the bullfights day in a cart. All the lovely ladies had flowers in their hair. They had a parade into the bullring. First came the bandoleros with long, sharp pins with ribbons on them to stick the bull and make him mad. Next came the picadors, who rode skinny horses, and they had long spears to stick in the bull and make him madder. Then came the matador, the proudest of them all. He thought he was very handsome and bowed to the ladies. He had a red cape and a sword and was supposed to stick the bull last of all. Then came the bull. And you know who that was, don't you? Ferdinand. They called him Ferdinand the Fierce, and all the bandoleros were afraid of him, and the picadors were afraid of him, and the matador was scared stiff. Ferdinand ran to the middle of the ring, and everyone shouted and clapped because they thought he was going to fight fiercely and butt and snort and stick his horns around. But when not Ferdinand, he got to the middle of the ring and he saw the flowers and all the lovely ladies' hair, and he just sat down quietly and smelled. He wouldn't fight and be fierce no matter what they did. He just sat and smelled, and the bandoleros were mad, and the picadors were madder, and the matador was so mad he cried because he couldn't show off with his cape and sword. So they had to take Ferdinand home. And for all I know, he's sitting there still under his favorite cork tree, smelling the flowers, just quietly. He was very happy. The end. The story of Ferdinand.